The inhabitants. The Johnson family had been living in the old mansion on the outskirts of town for years. It was a beautiful, sprawling house that had been in the family for generations. The house was built in the 1800s and had seen other family members come and go. But the Johnsons had been calling it home for over a decade. There were 4 of them: John, the father, Mary, the mother, and their 2 children, Tim and Lucy. They had lived in the house for years, quietly and contently, but one day, out of nowhere, strange things started happening. At first, it was just a creaking floorboard in an otherwise empty room, or a drafty window when none were open. Soon, it became more frequent and disturbing. One night, Tim woke up to find his toy truck rolling across the floor by itself. He rubbed his eyes, thinking he was still dreaming, but the truck kept moving. He sat up and watched it until it stopped in the middle of the room. Tim was puzzled, but he didn't know what to do, so he just went back to sleep. The next day, Mary found the dishes in the cupboard rearranged, and she knew she hadn't done it. John heard footsteps in the hallway when he was alone in the house, and Lucy claimed to have seen a figure standing at the foot of her bed. They tried to ignore the strange occurrences, but they became more frequent and intense. They would hear doors slamming shut, and they would see objects moving on their own. They would feel cold spots and see shadows moving across the walls. One day, Tim found an old family photo album in a dusty corner of the attic. As he flipped through the pages, he recognized the faces of the people in the pictures. They were his family, but something was different about them. They looked older, more worn out, and tired. As he kept flipping through the album, he realized that the family in the pictures was wearing the same clothes that they were wearing now. The more he looked, the more he realized that the people in the pictures were them, but they looked different. He ran down to the living room and showed the album to his father. They were both shocked to see the photos of their family. They couldn't understand how they had been taken or who had taken them. As they sat there trying to make sense of it all, they heard a loud banging sound coming from upstairs. They ran up to investigate and found nothing out of the ordinary. But when they walked back down the stairs, they realized that they couldn't see their own feet. They looked in the large mirror hanging at the base of the stairs and saw a family of 4 staring right at them. Suddenly, it all became eerily clear. It was actually they who were the ghosts haunting the old mansion. They were the dead. The strange happenings the family had been experiencing were actually the movements of the living inhabitants who had recently moved in. The family were somehow trapped in the mansion, unable to leave. They had been dead for years, and they hadn't even realized it. The Johnsons were shocked. They joined hands and began thinking, what are they going to do with the inhabitants in their house? That's it. Thanks for watching and listening, everyone, and remember to enjoy the journey. See you next time. Bye-bye.